Do you wonder why it's you? Do you ever think, like, how am I at the forefront of this spectacular change?
Um, well, first of all, I think it's very much like I think this is you could make the statement for many companies, but none is it as true for as OpenAI is like the CEO is far from the most important person in the company. Like in our case, there's a large handful of researchers, each of which are individually more critical to the success we've had so far and that we will have in the future than me. But even that, and I bet those people like really are like, this is weird to be them. But it's certainly weird enough for me that it like ups my simulation hypothesis probability somewhat.
Mm. What when if you had to give a guess, what when you think about the possibility of simulation theory, what kind of percentage do you?
I've never known how to put any number on it. Like, it's every argument that I've read written explaining why it's like super high probability. That all seems reasonable to me. Feels impossible to reason about though. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. I go maybe, but it's still what it is, and I have to
That's the
exist.
main thing is I think it doesn't matter. I think
Yeah,
it's like okay.
it definitely matters, I guess, but there's not a way to know currently, and also,
What matters though?
well, if this really is, I mean, our inherent understanding of life is that we are these biological creatures that interact with other biological creatures. We mate and breed, and that this creates more of us, and that hopefully, as society advances and we acquire more information, more understanding and knowledge, this next version of society will be superior to the version that preceded it, which is just how we look at society today. Nobody wants to live in 1860 where you died of a cold and there's no cure for infections. It's much better to be alive now. Like, just inarguably, right? There's unless you really do prefer the simple life that you see on Yellowstone or something. Like, it's like what we're dealing with now in terms. First of all, access to information, the lack of ignorance. If you choose to seek out information, you have so much more
Yeah,
access to it now than ever before.
that's so cool.
And over time, like if you go back to the beginning of written history to now, one of the things that is clearly evident is the more access to information, the better choices people can make. They don't always make better choices, but they certainly have much more of a potential to make better choices with more access to information. You know, we think that this is just this biological thing, but imagine if that's not what's going on. Imagine if this is a program and that you are just consciousness that's connected to this thing that's creating this experience that is indistinguishable from what we like to think of as a real biological experience from carbon-based life forms interacting with solid physical things in the real world.
It's still unclear to me what I'm supposed to do differently or think
Yeah, there's
differently.
no answer. Yeah, you're 100% right. What can you do differently? I mean, if you exist as if it's a simulation, if you just live your life as if it's a simulation, is that? I don't know if that's the solution. I don't. I think
I mean, it's real to me no matter what.
it's real. Yeah.
I'm gonna live it that way.
And that will be the problem with an actual simulation if and when it does get implemented.
Yeah.
If we do create an actual simulation that's indistinguishable from real life, like what are the rules of the simulation? How does it work? Is that simulation fair and equitable and much more reasonable and peaceful? Is there no war in that simulation? Should we all agree to hook up to it because we'll have a completely different experience in life, and all the angst of crime and violence and the things that we truly are terrified of, there will be non-existent in this simulation. Yeah. I mean, if we keep going, it seems like if you just extrapolate from where VR is now. Did you see the podcast that Lex Friedman did with Mark Zuckerberg?
I saw some clips, but I haven't got to watch the whole thing.
Bizarre, right? So they're essentially using like very realistic physical
Yeah.
avatars in the metaverse. Like that's step one. And that's Pong.
Maybe that's step 3.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little
Yeah.
beyond Pong at that
Yeah,
point.
maybe it's Atari.
Yeah.
Maybe you're playing Space Invaders now. But whatever it is, it's on the path to this thing that will be indistinguishable. That seems inevitable. Those two things seem inevitable to me. The inevitable thing to me is that we will create a life form that is an artificial, intelligent life form that's far more advanced than us. And once it becomes sentient, it will be able to create a far better version of itself. And then as it has better versions of itself, it will keep going. And if it keeps going, it will reach godlike capabilities. The complete understanding of every aspect of the universe and the structure of it itself, how to manipulate it, how to travel through it, how to communicate. And that, if we keep going, if we survive 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, and we're still on this same technological exponential increasing in capability path, that's God. We become something like a God. And that might be what we do. That might be what intelligent, curious, innovative life actually does. It creates something that creates the very universe that we live in.
Like creates the next simulation and then...
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the birth of the universe itself, is creativity and intelligence, and that it all comes from that. I used to have this joke about the Big Bang. Like, what if the Big Bang is just a natural thing? Like, humans get so advanced that they create a Big Bang machine, and then, we're so autistic and riddled with Adderall that we have no concept or worry of the consequences, and someone's like, I'll fucking press it. And they press it, and boom, and we start from scratch every 14 billion years. And that's what a Big Bang is.